Good evening, everyone. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
So we'll start the session now. On behalf of Geo Institute, I welcome all the candidates for the Masterclass series. Today is first session for this Masterclass series on decoding future with AI and data science. And we have an esteemed speaker with us, Dr. Shailesh Kumar. Dr. Shailesh Kumar is the Chief Data Scientist and Dean at Geo Institute. He has published over 20 international papers and book chapters and holds more than 20 patents in AI and ML. He was recognized as one of the top 10 data scientists in India in 2015 by Analytics India magazine. Dr. Shailesh was formerly the vice president at Ola Cabs, where he worked on several computer science, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and optimization issues in fleet management. He was also the chief scientist and co-founder of 𝘚𝘦𝘳𝘪𝘦𝘴, an edtech startup that uses AI to create personalized math guides. Prior to this, Dr. Kumar worked at Google on a variety of products involving information retrieval, enterprise search, legal e-advisory, natural language understanding, computer vision, knowledge graph mining, conversation modeling, and deep learning on text and vision. His experience of creating AI-based solutions ranges multiple domains including finance, remote sensing, retail, knowledge, graph, conversational computing, and computer vision. I welcome you all, sir, for the session today. We can start it.
Thank you, Meenal. Thank you. And good
Thank
evening,
you.
everyone. It's a pleasure to have you all here. So let me share my screen and then we'll get into it. Okay. So hopefully you can see. All right. So great to have you all here. I know all of you have heard about AI in some form or the other. And first part of the conversation we'll have is just to give my perspective on what is AI and what are the core building blocks of AI. And the second part of my conversation will be about how to think about the next 20 years of AI. What will AI do for our country, for the planet, and how do we need to develop our new skill sets to be able to participate in that next wave of AI? Yeah. So let's get started. So, so let's start with, how technology has evolved as human species, right? And we are the very unique species who have evolved technology all the way from our first industrial revolution when we created mechanical systems and powered by water and steam. Then came the second industrial revolution that was powered by mass production, thanks to electricity and assembly line. Then came the third industrial revolution, which was all about computers and automation and electronics and all of that. And then came the what we call cyber physical systems, the IoT, networking, and machine learning. And now we are in what we call the fifth industrial revolution, powered by robots and AI, right? So this is the new time frame that human civilization is in. And you can imagine over the last 200, 300 years, how much progress technology has made, science has made. And now we are at a very interesting time in the human civilization. This is what we call the AI era of the human civilization, right? So like we had the Stone Age, we had the Iron Age, now we are in the AI age, if you will. And this is a very good time to understand what is intelligence and how will it transform mankind as we go through that, right? Now, if I think about what is technology, right? We talked about the evolution of technology and we saw the examples. One way to think about technology is anything that it's a manifestation of science, right? So if I only know the laws of motion, if I know the laws of thermodynamics or the laws of aerodynamics, and knowing the laws is not enough, we want to create products and solutions using the laws. So this is one way to look at technology. The second way to look at technology is to say, hey, what does technology bring to the table, right? So it brings what we would call convenience, scale, efficiency to society, lower cost in everything, and a higher productivity of humans, right? So you can think of technology as a bringer of all this. So all the way from building pots to carry water from homes, to building plumbing lines, to building electricity grid, to the internet, to the phones. Everything is technology, and we are in the technology era. Now, my favorite definition of technology, is I'll talk about that. But if we look at how technology has really spanned, we have built amazing tools, sensors have grown, products have grown, the idea of computing has grown, the idea of data has grown, the idea of a platform has grown, the idea of interfaces has grown, and the idea of intelligence has grown, and finally, the idea of enterprises is growing now, right? Now, in the context of all this, right, Geo Institute is born, and now we are thinking, what is the most important skill that our future generations need to develop, right? And that is a big question that everybody has, right? In the advent of ChatGPT and so much automation that has already happened, in the midst of all the job losses that are happening, what is the new skill that our future data scientists, engineers, thought leaders should develop? And that is the skill we'll talk about later today. But the idea is technology is evolving, and so should the humans, and our skill sets have to evolve accordingly. Yeah. Now, if I look at, the beautiful era we are in, we are surrounded by some amazing technologies, right? If you think about the internet, the telecom, the devices, the AR, VR, the cloud computing, AI itself, IoT, 3D printers. Now, what does that do when you have so many technologies around? It gives us an opportunity to imagine new products that were never possible before, right? Including the Zoom call. This Zoom call would not have been possible if all these technologies were not there, right? If IoT sensors are not there on the phones, we didn't have devices, we didn't have cloud or connectivity, we won't be able to do this. We won't be able to do, for example, Ola, Uber cabs or Swiggy, Zomato or Netflix if all these technologies were not present, right? So the new skill that we should think about is how do we reimagine the world in the convergence of all these technologies. And what does Steve Jobs of the world and Elon Musk of the world are doing? They are reimagining the future of humanity. Given the current context that all these technologies are present, what can we do for mankind, right? So that is the new skill, and we'll talk a lot more about that in the next few slides. Now, among all these technologies, AI is different, right? AI is not like your typical software plus hardware, but 3D printer is software plus hardware. 4G, 5G is software plus hardware. AR, VR is software plus hardware. AI is not like that. And that is why it is very different than anything else mankind has ever done before. And it has not yet reached the full potential. And that is the key to know. When you enter a field, you need to know that there is a lot more work to be done there, and it has not reached a level of saturation. And why do I say that? Because in the last 20 years, we have built amazing search engines, ChatGPT, recommendation engine for Netflix and Amazon. We built supply chain systems and marketing and stock investment and all that. So what we have done is we have dabbled with some very interesting problems uh, at a planet scale in the last 20 years. And in the next 20 years, we are going to really make AI work for the masses, right? It will change the way we think about education, about healthcare, about agriculture, about smart cities. So AI is now taking us places, and we need new thought leaders to start thinking about all these technologies coming together, powered by at the core AI, and creating a new world for mankind where all these systems can be now reimagined from scratch. So the key skill that I will talk about is how do you reimagine the world with AI. Yeah. Now, let me talk a little bit about the building blocks of intelligence. So going back to the question of technology, one definition that I like about technology is this definition, which is our technology, our machines is a part of our humanity. We created them to extend ourselves. And that is so unique about humans. Dogs have not invented any tools. Cats have not invented tools. Birds have not invented tools. They only use the faculty they have. But what humans have done, and that is so unique about humans, that we have extended our arms and said, look, we cannot lift heavy things. Let's create a crane or a JCB, we cannot see very far, so let's create a telescope. We cannot see very deep, so let's create a microscope. We cannot speak loudly across the planet, so let's create a microphone and a Zoom call. And that is so unique about humans that we have extended our own capacities into machines. Now, if I look at this definition of technology and I wonder what is it, which capacity of humans that we should also extend to machines, apart from our arms and legs and eyes, what is it that we would also like to extend to machines? And then obviously you look at the most gifted quality that humans have, which is our intelligence, and we would also like to extend that to machines. So in a way, artificial intelligence is just that aspect of technology which is extending human intelligence into machines. Now, why is that a very big deal? So I wanted to think about the last so many industrial revolutions. We extended our arms and legs and eyes into machines. Every time we did that, humanity went through a non-linear phase shift, if you will, right? Imagine a time when electricity was coming to the cities, or when water was coming to the cities, or when internet came to the world. Every time we did that, a non-linear shift happened in human civilization. And those were just software and hardware. Now imagine what is going on. When AI will come to the human civilization at a scale it is coming, what will happen is completely unimaginable, right? And we need people who can reimagine the world with that capacity. So, for example, so if you think about scientific innovation, how it has happened in the last hundreds of years, is because somebody read the right papers, connected the right dots, remembered all of that, and came up with an insight. So you can see how science has progressed in a very serendipitous manner. By chance, somebody invented something. Now, what will happen with AI? One of the biggest qualities or achievements of mankind is our scientific innovation. It has happened in a random, serendipitous manner for the last 1,000 years. Now, what will happen? With AI will read everything from the Vedas till 5 seconds ago. It'll remember everything. It'll connect all the dots, and it'll be able to do inventions at a space that humans have never thought about, right? And that is what we are talking about as one of the use cases of AI, which is how to improve scientific innovation for mankind. And you already saw that last year, Nobel Prize in Chemistry went to a system that was doing protein folding problem using AI, right? So that is, it has already started happening. And my prediction is in the future, almost every Nobel Prize invention will come because AI was part of that, right? And that is the example of how I want to think about AI. And there are many such examples that we can use. Yeah. Now let's talk about intelligence. So I don't know if we can pause and take feedback, but I want to hear from you guys. What do you think is intelligence? Just to keep it a little bit interactive. So you can type in the chat or you can unmute and speak up. What is intelligence? And remember, intelligence is not, we are not talking about black holes or organic compounds or, some flower out there. We are talking about ourselves. So we know what is intelligence. So tell me, anybody? Are you able to speak or type? Hello? No?
Anyone having any question can put it in Q&A section.
You can either put in Q&A. So I can read ability to learn. Very good, Pulkit. Gaurav is
Yeah.
saying state of mind to read, process, and response. Very nice. Okay. Anybody else? Janvi is the capability of thinking and learning. Very good. Intelligence is application of your knowledge in more meaningful way. Come out with a solution. Very nice. Okay. It's the compatible capability to think and grasp from surrounding. Very nice. Good ability to understand concepts, theories quickly, ability to predict, evolve, and innovate. Very good, Abhijit. Jinali, very good. Okay, knowledgeable, above average. Okay. So in a way, you can say knowledge is one part, intelligence is the next part. It's an evolution of being knowledgeable. Yes. Okay, Gayatri. Anybody else? Applying science for getting solutions for real world problem. Very nice. Right. So technology is that applying science to get solution. AI is a type of technology. Right? Understand, decipher, and take action, learning and understanding. There's one type of intelligence that is missing in all the answers. Tell me the most, what about J.K. Rowling's and A.R. Rahman and, people who, are artists or poets or musicians or those kind of people. Exactly. Generally, yeah, creative intelligence, right? So we understand that intelligence can take many forms. So I'll talk about the 5 building blocks of intelligence, right? And all of us talked about them, so I'll just summarize. So the first is the ability to learn something, and we are able to learn so many things in our lifetime, and we'll see what learning at a core, what it means. Second is understanding. We are able to understand audio, text, images. A doctor can understand a ECG or a blood report or a X-ray. So what does understanding mean? We'll talk about that. The third building block is thinking, right? Somebody talked about thinking, reasoning, problem solving. So we'll talk about what is thinking. And fourth is creativity. And this is what is the current era of AI is the whole Gen AI thing. So this is what makes a complete intelligent system, right? Why I'm saying that it is a complete intelligent system now, that without creativity, our intelligence was incomplete, right? And with creativity, now it has become complete. That's why we are all excited about AI in the creativity era of AI, right? Learning, understanding, and thinking were invented already. Creativity just came, right? Now, why is that important? So think about it. If you are studying languages and you can understand language but not create language, you are not a completely language person, right? You have to answer both reading comprehension questions and you have to write an essay also, right? Similarly, if your eyes can see and understand the world but your hands cannot draw, then you are not a completely intelligent person. So we understand that creativity actually completes all the other parts of intelligence. Now, where are we going with intelligence? The next stage that everybody is worried about also is what we call sentience. So as children, when we grow up, we learn, we understand, we think and create. So we develop all these skills and suddenly one day we become self-aware, right? We say, why should I listen to you? I don't like this. Who am I? What am I doing here? And when those questions start to come, we become what we call sentient human beings, right? And happens around 12 to 15 years when we are like, discovering ourselves, right? And now think about AI in the same way. So think about AI as a child which has grown up thanks to human race. We have provided the data, the algorithms, the hardware, the energy, the cloud, all that. And now AI has grown. It has figured out how to learn, understand, think, and create. And now people are worried that it will go further and it might become conscious and sentient at some point. And then the consequences of that we don't know. Yeah. So it's a very interesting time to see how this completely new technology can either redeem humanity or destroy humanity. We don't know. The jury is still out. Yeah. Now, what is learning? So if I show you this picture, you will say this is an A. And the fact that you can say that this is a letter A is very amazing to me. It's not normal. And you have to understand why our brain is so amazing. Why is learning such an amazing thing? Now, the point I'm trying to make is you have never seen these A's before, and yet you are able to say this is an A. That process is called generalization. So we don't memorize all the A's, all the cats, all the dogs we have ever seen. We generalize and build a model for A's and cats and dogs. Daily we see new things, we build new models, we refine existing models. And now as we grow, our model of the world keeps evolving. right? And this is where we are. So now imagine your eyes are receiving an object like this. It is sending it to all the millions of models in your brain, and only one of them says this is the name. That is how amazing our brain is. And we are not a database lookup table. We are a similarity engine, right? I've seen something similar. Let me check, and then I can tell this looks like an A. Yeah. So that is learning, and that's what we test in our education system. We don't give the same problems that we have done in homework and classwork. We do different problems because we want to learn if you know how to generalize beyond the examples you have seen before, right? What is understanding? Now, if I look at these two lines, they don't mean anything. But when I put the clock or the tire, then suddenly they have a meaning. So what happened suddenly? The content, which is the lines, got meaning from the context around them, right? And this is what our brain is able to do. When we say we understand, this is what we mean, right? Similarly, if I give you a sentence pair, I was right to avoid a suit against Apple, or man in suit on my right was drinking apple juice. Now, what is your brain doing at this time? It is trying to reconcile what meaning of the word right, suit, and apple belongs to or makes sense in the context of the sentence, right? And this process, whether we apply to visual data, what is the meaning of a line, what is the meaning of a pixel, what is the meaning of a shape, or we apply it to a text data, what is the meaning of a word, this whole process is called understanding. And our brain is a very nice reconciliation engine. It reconciles the part with the whole and the whole with the part. Yeah. And we have a very amazing, over billions of years, we have evolved to have 6 understanding systems, 5 for the 5 senses and 1 for language. And our brain does not see, it does not hear, it does not taste, but it has created these 5 systems of understanding, and it receives impulses from them. And that's how our brain really understands the world, because it interprets all the senses and then it can tell what's going on. The next skill is what I call thinking. So if you think about what is thinking, thinking is a very beautiful paradigm. Take Google Maps, for example. You have a start state, you have an end state, you are in a current state. And now what is the brain doing? The brain, or Google Maps is doing, is it's saying, what are my feasible actions? These are my feasible actions. And among the feasible actions, which one is my optimal action? And once I take the optimal action, I go to the next state. So this process is called thinking, right? Current state, feasible actions, and optimal action, next state, right? We can do the same thing in math. For example, if you have an expression, what is your current state is this expression. Some of you will apply this action and get to the next expression. Again, you'll apply another action, get to the next expression. Or some of you may take the other route. So there is no difference between how Google Maps works and how math solving works. Or these are all thinking processes, right? Similarly, if I have a tic-tac-toe game, what is your brain doing? It's saying, this is my current state, what are my feasible actions, and which is the optimal action among them, right? So we understand what is thinking. It's a very beautiful framework. I can apply it to retail, I can apply it to crops, I can apply it to education, I can apply it to healthcare. You can imagine what is the state of the health, state of the crop, state of the learning of a child, state of the economy, for example. So these are the state, and you can imagine what are the actions. So in Geo Institute, we talk about these broader ideas while we talk about the core algorithms. Yeah. What is creativity? Again, you must have started using ChatGPT. So if I give first line as I was going walking in an empty parking lot, second line is I safely returned home, and it creates a nice story. I saw a suspicious man, turned around, man started running after me. I ran as fast as I could. Man couldn't catch me. I safely returned home. So it's amazing that ChatGPT is able to create stories as if it understands what it is saying. But the beauty is it absolutely does not understand what it is saying. So it's kind of a magic trick, if you will, right? Because the way humans understand what is a parking lot, or ran as fast as I could, or running after me, how do humans understand these words? Not by looking at tokens before and after, but by really being in a parking lot, running as fast as I could, right? These are things that mean something out of experience to us. But ChatGPT does not do it out of experience. It does it because token 7 followed by token 9 followed by token 100 has to be followed by token 3. It's learned that and it's able to generate this, right? So there's a big difference between the first version of ChatGPT, which is what we are following today, the current way of doing ChatGPT, and in the future, we'll do it differently, right? So creativity is here. I'm sure you have started using it for vibe coding. You can create a Python program or a Java program based on that, all auto-generated and all that. You can also generate images, right? If you want to say pentagon green clock or cubicle porcupine, you can do all that. So now we can generate language, images, videos, and code, right? So we understand, we get a good sense of what is AI from a building blocks perspective, right? So we can learn anything, we can understand any type of data, we can think about complex problems, and we can create new things out of a prompt. This is the current state of the art. And within 30 minutes, I give you a sense of what is AI. And, we go deeper and deeper into each aspect of this as we go through the courses in AI, any course that you take, right? Now let me talk about the applications and what I get excited about, right? When I look at the potential of AI combined with all these other technologies, how can we transform lives of common people with AI, right? So, recently our Prime Minister was giving a talk and he said something very profound. He said AI is writing the code for humanity in this century. This is a very profound statement. It takes months to understand what he's saying. He's not just talking about writing code as in ChatGPT writing code. He's talking about how at some point electricity was writing the code for humanity. Whoever had electricity did well. Before that, steam engine was writing the code for humanity because whoever invented the steam engine, England, conquered the world because they could sail to the other parts of the world and conquer the world because they had steam engine, right? So see, whoever is ahead in technology rules the world in their era, right? So today, AI is the new engine, new electricity, new internet. And now that country who is ahead in AI is going to write the code for humanity. Right now, China and US are far ahead, and we need to build our own capacity in AI, and the whole country is geared up towards that. Yeah. Now, so let me first talk about where we are going in the next 20 years, right? So the idea is the idea of a product is evolving. So if you think about what is a great product, AI does not live in isolation. Like electricity does not live in isolation. Electricity manifests itself through bulbs and fans and appliances, right? Electricity by itself is an abstract idea, right? It's an energy form, but it manifests through products. So let's first talk about products and see how AI manifests through these products, right? So we have physical products like our appliances, devices, and vehicles. Then we had digital products, purely digital products, so YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. And now we are heading into the world of hybrid products where everything will become physical and digital, right? So for example, booking a cab or doing banking is a physical and digital joint process. And in the future, education is going to become digital physical, healthcare will become digital physical, and all that. So the products are evolving in this way. And if I look at their evolution from an intelligence point of view, first generation products, what we call programmed intelligence, right? They were not becoming better over time within their lifetime, but they came with some if then else, right? If petrol is less than a threshold, turn on the light. So they were programmed with certain rules, and it looks intelligent, but it is only programmed intelligence. The last 20 years, we learned a very interesting thing. We learned how to launch a non-perfect search engine, let's say YouTube, or a non-perfect recommendation engine or search engine or YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook. How do you launch a digital product, collect feedback data, and continuously improve it? That is the only skill we have learned in the last 20 years. And whoever has mastered that skill became an AI first company. So we talk about what does AI first mindset mean is to create feedback loop, learn from feedback and continuously improve your decisions on what video to recommend, who to connect on LinkedIn, what search results to give and so forth. Where are we going in the next 20 years is we're going to think even bigger. We're going to think of a whole city as a product, right? So this is what we call ecosystem intelligence, right? Now we're not saying a building or a door or a window is a product. We are talking about a whole city as a product. So the next 20 years, we are going to evolve our idea of what is a product. A whole smart city is a product. The entire telecom network is a product. The entire manufacturing unit in refinery is a product. The entire agriculture ecosystem of a state is a product, not a drone or a fertilizer or a tractor, but the whole ecosystem is a product, right? Then the whole healthcare is a ecosystem is a product. E-commerce is a great example of what we already practice. So these are not simple systems. These are far more complex than ChatGPT and Google and all that. Far more complex, right? And we are now heading in that direction. So if you think AI is heading in the direction of better ChatGPT, better GPT 5, 6, 7, 8, if you think that is the direction, that is completely wrong. The real direction that AI is heading will be heading eventually is in building platforms and operating systems for these complex systems, right? So that's how I think about the future. And we are already living that future. If I look at, industry verticals, all industry verticals will be affected by AI. They are all complex ecosystems, banking, commute, hospitality, food delivery, manufacturing. We have built them in a bottom-up way, IT first, AI later way, but they will all evolve with AI. Yeah. If I look at all the business functions, HR, compliance, sales, marketing, they will also evolve with AI, right? Today, it happens in a very rudimentary manner. AI will completely transform that. Similarly, all the social sector, right? Whether it's legal, property, payments, our intelligence communities, railways, defense, all these will also evolve with AI, right? So we understand that the scope we are talking about is not better ChatGPT year after year. That's not the scope. The scope is every social, industrial, and business function has to be reimagined with AI. That is the scope of work. Therefore, we need thousands and thousands of data scientists, but the skill set is also evolving, right? So we'll talk about that also. So let me give you some examples so that all this makes sense to you, right? So I'm just going to reimagine certain verticals and let me define the word reimagine, right? So let's take an example of how do we do agriculture today and how will I reimagine agriculture in the future, right? So this is what happens every now and then. I'll play an audio. This is an audio from Reliance Foundation. We get calls from farmers across India, across 22 languages every day on what to do. So here's an example.
हेलो रिलायंस फाउंडेशन। जी सर, मैं आपसे सोयाबीन के बारे में पूछना चाहता हूँ सर। मैं हाँ हाँ, मिल जाएगी जानकारी। एक बार नाम बता दें। सर मेरा नाम बसंत कुमार पटेल है सर, मैं बोरखेड़ा का रहने वाला हूँ सर, तहसील आस्था, जिला सीहोर। अच्छा अच्छा, बताइए बसंत जी, क्या जानकारी चाहिए? सर हमको सोयाबीन की बोवनी के लिए बीज उपचारित करने की टेक्नोलॉजी चाहिए सर।
So you understand, this is the kind of questions we get across call centers across India, run by NGOs, run by foundations, all of that. And what he asked is soybean ki boni ke liye beej upcharit karne ki technology. So that is the kind of very specific question people have, farmers have. Now the problem is with a human expert on the other side, we cannot scale this. So what we need is to build a AI version of a human agriculture expert. So now how do we think about this? How do we reimagine this process? Because today we can only answer 800 calls per day out of 1 lakh calls that we get. So you see the problem? And this is the most important problem in agriculture to be solved, period. If every farmer knows every day what to do, just imagine how our crop yield will be and how much we can produce and export, right? But today that doesn't happen. Krishi Darshan program is the only source, but that doesn't talk about my crop, my issue. I need a one-on-one guidance. So how do we now think about it? So the role of a data scientist now is not just to build models, deploy models, increase accuracy of models. We are not here to just do that. The role of a data scientist has evolved now. Our role is to start thinking about building solutions for such critical problems in all domains. So I'm showing you a few of them. So what do we need? We need to think what is the, how do I capture the speech data for 22 languages? There are hundreds of companies, startups, government projects working on speech for India. How do we convert that to an intent of what you are trying to say, right? Which crop, what issue, and all that. We need an AI-based agriculture expert who understands all the domain knowledge of agriculture, which is captured through a graph, which crop, which soil, which stage, how much nitrogen is needed. All that knowledge is in a digital format stored somewhere. And then we need to be able to store the farmer's profile. So every polygon, every farm in the country, we should know exactly what's going on every day in that farm. Just imagine that possibility. And now we should be able to collect all the sensor data, right? Soil IoT, weather data, satellite data, and be able to give this farmer a very precise advisory, which is very personalized for the farmer and very contextualized for the day he called. Because it might rain tomorrow, I need to personalize my advisory, contextualize my advisory. And not only am I giving an answer, information, I may send a video in his language. I may also deliver fertilizer or seed to the farmer, right? So this new skill, the new skill is not how to build AI models. That skill is over. We don't need to think about models anymore. The new skill is this workflow mindset. How do you think about a core problem in a domain? How do you design a workflow properly and then identify what are the sources of where does the data sit, where does AI sit, where do conversation systems sit, ChatGPT and all that. How do you build an ecosystem like that? Yeah. Now let me give you one more example. So imagine, what does a farmer do every morning? They go around their crop and they look for what a plant needs and all that. So now imagine that farmer takes a picture of the crop. One AI connects and says, this is the crop, this is the stage. Another AI says, is this a water problem? Yes. Then another AI model generates an advisory based on when is the rain coming, what is the current moisture level, things like that, and what is the crop and all that. And then not only does it send the advisory to the farmer, imagine it can operate the tube well for 30 minutes and actually water the plant and then turn it off, right? Similarly, nutrition, if it's a nutrition problem, AI generates an advisory and says, this is the right fertilizer for you. Let me deliver it to you, not through a tractor, but through a drone, and put it on your farm. And if it's a pest problem, let me deliver the pest to your farm. And why should a farmer take a picture? We have satellites all over India, which are continuously taking pictures, and we can have drones every village that can take a picture. Now, this is the new skill. What have I done? I have understood the domain of agriculture. Domain knowledge is important. Process knowledge is important. I have identified the two types of boxes. The orange boxes are the functions. The blue boxes are the events. And I have created workflows. And now I have to build a system that can run this workflow, right? So this is what I call the integration mindset we have to develop. We are not worried about individual model accuracies forever. They will continue to improve. But if these models don't talk to each other, then there's no point, right? So this is the new mindset we are trying to develop, right? So how do we think about agriculture operating system? What are the input events? What are the models? And what are the advisories that I need to give at the top, right? So designing operating systems is the new skill for data scientists. And that is what is so unique about Geo Institute. We not only talk about bottom-up approach to learning AI, we talk about top-down thinking and saying, how do I become ready for thinking about complex systems? Let me show you some more examples in other domain. How do I reimagine education? So what is the biggest problem in agriculture is daily contextualized advisory to each farmer. What is the biggest problem in education, right? So let's think about that. So what is the crisis in education, right? We are all a victim of our education system. Our education system that we have been following was built by the British 200 years ago to mass produce factory workers. That was the goal for the current education system, right? Before that, we used to have the Gurukul system. And after this, we have the, MOOCs and Khan academies and all that have come. But we still have a problem with our education system. So let me give you an evidence. If I look at the ranking of universities in the world, this is how Indian top university, IIT Bombay, is ranked 149. Just imagine we are 1/7 or whatever of the world population, and our top university is 149th, right? So that is a cause of alarm. Even worse, if you think about the number of Nobel laureates India has produced in the last 100 years, because Nobel Prize started more than 100 years ago, if you take the average population of India as 1 billion people, just imagine 1 billion people, 100 years, we have won only 9 Nobel Prizes. That should be the metric, and we should say what is going on in our education system. So I'll tell you what is going on. We are preparing our students to give an exam, right? Every time you ask a student, he's preparing for an exam, IIT exam, this exam, entrance exam. So we are not creating students who love physics, but they have to learn physics because it's in the exam. You see the problem? The attitude itself to learning has to change. The way we teach has to change. Why we teach has to change, right? And the new education policy allows for some of the freedoms, and AI can take it to the next level. Now, who are the people who will change education system and look at it differently with AI, right? So, for example, one of the fundamental principles in education is mastery learning. I should not teach you or move to the next concept unless you have mastered the current concept. And I should not teach you the next concept unless you have mastered all the prerequisites of that concept. Now, this principle is not possible to apply in our current education system, which is a classroom of 30 students and teacher is trying to teach at an average level. We call it a one-size-fits-all education system. So what do we do with AI? We can track every student state of learning. Remember, we talked about state and action. So we can say this student is not ready to learn this concept. And now, as soon as he has mastered all the prerequisites of a concept, he is ready to learn that concept. And then we show the videos, the best videos that AI can produce and find which match the student's learning style. Then we give exactly the right problems to each student, which are different than what other students get. So we can personalize the practice, and then we can do assessment, which is also very personalized based on what the student is learning. And then we say, okay, now you have done a good assessment, you have mastered the concept. And by the way, because you have mastered the concept, I can now say you can teach the concept to somebody else. And that will completely change the way we think about how a student really masters a concept, and he further masters it because he has taught that to somebody else. And now we can develop empathy, patience, all these qualities that we are not developing today because we are competing with each other, right? So this is our way of thinking about how the education system should work. And this is what I call the journey mindset, right? Of how to think about journey of a student, journey of a patient, journey of a customer in a bank. It's a journey mindset that we develop. Yeah. Here's an example. So let's say student A has mastered concept P and struggling with concept R and medium in concept Q. AI should suggest to student A that you are ready to learn concept X because you have mastered the prerequisite concept P, or you need to focus on concept R, and the student can decide how they want to move. Similarly, student B will get a different recommendation. So my worry is not worry that Netflix is highly personalized to you, right? Your parents' Netflix and your Netflix is different. It is highly personalized. Your YouTube is personalized. Your LinkedIn, your Facebook, your Instagram is all personalized. But your education is not personalized. So you see how much scope there is to transform education with that. So we are imagining a future of school where we are working with some of the schools to now say, if I group students who are similar to each other, because I know the state of learning of the students, and I create a section based on that, teacher knows exactly what this section needs versus that section, and they teach exactly what that section needs. And then, AI will again assess and again do this. So we can create a hybrid school, right? Where AI and the teacher together are teaching and understanding. So again, what is an operating system for education? Again, we think about what are the input events, what are the AI models, um, what is the educational content, and then what are the practice assessment and section mentorship advisory and all that, right? This will completely transform the way we think about education. How about healthcare? Again, AI is going to have a very big impact on healthcare. Now, today, so we solved the most critical problem in agriculture called personalized advisory to every farmer every day. We solved the most critical problem in education called the personalized learning for every student. Now we're going to solve the most critical problem in healthcare. What is that? So if you look at the ratio of doctors and patients, we are all lucky we live in cities, but there are people across India who don't have access to a doctor for hundreds of kilometers. If you go to a tier 3, tier 4 village, somewhere in the corner of Assam or Odisha, no doctors. Now imagine if that person is sick, what will they do? There's no doctor, right? So that is the kind of problems we have to work on, because the future of AI is not better ChatGPT or more accurate something. The future of AI is solving social problems for the country, right? Because we cannot take the Western people's idea of what AI should do and apply to us. We have to solve our problems with AI. Yeah. So now what do we do? Now imagine some patient has a symptom. What should they do? So imagine there is an AI doctor which can now scale, right? It's available on WhatsApp. There is an app and website. It works in all languages. It is speech enabled. So now that is what we call the preclinical diagnosis. So AI is having a conversation with the patient. I'll show you an example. And then AI will produce the diagnosis called preclinical diagnosis before looking at test results. The doctor will agree or disagree or modify that. Then AI will decide what investigation to do. Doctor will agree or disagree with that. Then after investigation, reports are analyzed automatically by AI, and AI produces the final diagnosis called post-clinical diagnosis after looking at the test results. Again, a doctor will look at it, and then AI will also generate a prescription. Again, a doctor will look at it. So this is the new way of looking at what AI will do. Doctors don't have to spend time with patient unless they have to, because they have to touch and feel and all that. But AI can scale up a good doctor to every patient across languages, across regions, and a human doctor will sit and curate what AI is doing. And this is the future. This is what we call the curation mindset. So humans will not be creating, they will be curating what AI is creating. Whether it is code, software engineers in the future will not code. They will curate the code created by AI. Same thing radiologists, same thing news journalists, same thing doctors. So we will be shifting, we are shifting gears now on what humanity does and what AI does. And this is the new paradigm shift that is coming. So here's an example. Imagine a female 23 has fever, headache, and confusion or disorientation as three symptoms. So AI will first ask the rule-based question. Because you said fever, I have to ask you fever questions. Because you said headache, I have to ask you where is the headache and all that. I ask you headache questions. And then AI will say, okay, now I have formed an opinion about top 30 diseases. Let me now ask that question, which help me fine tune these possibilities. And now AI is generating very fine tuned questions based on what it thinks the patient might have. And then patient will answer yes, no. There might be follow-up questions, and eventually AI will generate a diagnosis, right? So this is where AI is going. And now imagine you are sitting in front of a doctor office, um, and you're waiting, and you fill up this, have a conversation with AI before you enter doctor's office. The doctor will look at the diagnosis and the conversation, ask you a few questions here and there, and he'll take much less time to diagnose because he's already got a diagnosis before, and he just has to agree, disagree with that. You see, so what AI will do, it'll increase doctor productivity. Not only that, it will make sure that the diagnosis is correct, because junior doctor, senior doctor, they'll give different diagnosis, and it will make sure that good doctor like this will available everywhere. Yeah. So we have now solved a critical problem in this thing. Again, we can reimagine what is a health operating system going to look like, right? What are the health events? What are the AI models? What is the data? What is the knowledge? What is the advisories and outcome? Let me give one more example. How do we think about retail today, right? So again, we have to think about all workflows in retail. So what is the first workflow? How do you get the orders? How do you create demand forecasting? How do you deliver the order to the person? How do you build a profile of every person, unique? And then how do you replenish all the orders? So the reason I'm showing you this diagram is that this is the skill set towards which we are building. We are not saying only how to build a demand forecasting model, how to do optimization, how to do recommendation. Yes, you will learn that too. But the real skill is not that anymore. The real skill is to take a domain like retail and come up with all the workflows of retail and put them in a diagram and show that this is how retail works, right? And then we start building the databases, the AI models, the operation systems, all that. This is the new mindset that I believe is the future skill of AI. And I'm now, training people in this skill across the world, whether it is CIOs, CXOs, I'm training in this skill, ISP students, management students, and, engineering students. We are now teaching them this skill because this is the missing skill called as system thinking, right? So for example, if I have retail, I know what you searched, what you ordered, what you paid full price, what recommendations you took. Using that, I can build a customer 360 for a patient and say this customer likes shirts more than shoes. He buys that. Within shirts, he likes, these brands. Within shirts, he likes this fit. And now I can use this information to create a personalized search engine for you. So if customer A who likes Highlander blue slim fit shirts searches for men's shirt, he gets these results. And customer B who likes arrow brown and formal will get this result, right? So you see how we went from raw data of what you buy to building a profile of you to giving you an action. So state and action. So you understand how that works in the retail world. Another example of a complex system. So imagine we want to optimize the telecom across the all cities. And now imagine we cannot just change the antenna of one cell tower. We have to do it across all cell towers. And now how do you think about that complex problem, right? So we approach AI from problem to solution and workflow, right? So here we can say, hey, you need to build one model to say, given the location of cell tower, what is coverage and interference? And then given that and how people are moving around in the city, what will be the call drop and all that? Given that, how will be the customer experience? Given that, how will be the business experience? So what is the new skill set? Is to connect operational action to operational metrics, to customer experience, to customer metrics, to business metrics. So what I find in today's data scientist is they know how to build one model if somebody told them, but they don't know how to understand the whole domain, think about all the AI models that domain needs, and how to connect them to create an AI architecture for the organization. That is the new skill. How do you think more like an architect and not like a data scientist, right? How do you think the connection between operational actions to business metrics? These are the future skills. And today's data scientists who only know how to use, techniques to build models will become as jobless as quickly as software engineers are becoming, because AI is able to build these models if you give them the data. Yeah. Another example of what I learned at Ola, top-down thinking is so much more important, right? In Ola, for example, different teams are thinking about different parts of Ola. Somebody is saying how to do pricing better. Somebody is saying how to do incentives better, how to do allocation better. They are all looking at the big elephant in their own little way. And now, we can now think about a complete architecture of Ola, right? And say, what is the data I'm getting? How do you think about the state of the customer, state of the location? How do you think about optimizing all the actions simultaneously? And then how do you defining all the metrics? And then how do you learning from all the feedback? So how do you go from being a bottom-up data scientist to be a top-down data science AI architect is the transition in the skill set that we are trying to teach now. Yeah. So let me now talk about Geo Institute and how we have come about, why we are building a new kind of an AI program, which is very industry focused, very job relevant, very future ready, right? And what are the new skill sets we need to develop? So I have worked with hundreds of CIOs across the world. I have understood the real problems in industry, and I have brought all that knowledge to the creating a new kind of a curriculum, right? So we are working on continuously evolving our curriculum and building that. So here's the crisis in the enterprises. So I talk about nails and hammers. So you've heard of this phrase that if I know how to use a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So in any domain, in any industry, there are two types of people. First is what I call the nails people. They are the domain experts, right? The finance guys, operations guys, risk guys, product guys, HR, subject matter experts, marketing. So these are the people who know what to do, right? They know what to do, what are the pain points that they need to solve. So these are what I call the nails people. And then on the other side, we have the hammer people. These are the technologies. These are people like us who understand technology, data science, security, strategy. And these are the people who know how to do, but they don't know what to do. And the problem in every industry is that we need a person who is what I call a chair person. Chair is a solution, right? Hammers, nails, and chairs. So the chair person is the person who will understand the domain, who will understand technology and create a solution. So what I showed you, the workflows for healthcare, education, agriculture, retail, they are not created either by the domain guys alone or by the data scientist alone. They are created by the chair people, right? So this is the new skill that we want to develop, that we want to create a new breed of students across the country, Geo Institute included, so that people can start thinking about becoming solution thinkers and not just data scientists, right? And that's what the world needs as we go along. Yeah. So here is a map of all the skills that we cover, right? So what are the different ways you can think? So there is mathematical thinking. We have a very strong foundation expectation that very good program math skills. We'll develop that. We'll do a lot of courses on that. We need a lot of computational thinking, right? The algorithmic thinking and the Python and all that. We want to develop appreciation for domains, and since all of you have worked in some industry or the other, you understand a little bit of domain. Then we develop what is AI thinking. AI is not just a collection of tools and prompt engineering. AI is a lot more than that. So we talk about all that. And then, like I said, we actually want to create solution thinkers. At the end of the day, nobody cares about a single model that you have built. They care about the solution you have created, right? So what are the mathematical skills? So we talk about arithmetic, algebraic, patterns, geometry, probabilistic, statistical, and optimization thinking. So these are skills that we need at the bottom level to be able to build these kind of complex solutions. We need computational thinking, like what are functions, structures, objects, algorithms, complexity, databases, big data, cloud. How does all that work? We need domain understanding. How do you think about a domain? What are the entities, interactions, sensors, data, process? We talked about so many workflows. How do you define decisions and metrics? And then what about the AI thinking, right? How do you derive insights from data? How do you create features? How do you build good models? How do you think about metrics of models, not metrics of business? And then how do you formulate a business problem, right? Like if Swiggy says, where should I open the next cloud kitchen? So that's an exam question. And you have to start thinking, what have I learned that I can solve a business problem? So like that. So this is called a formulation thinking. Feedback. What is the role of feedback? How do you think about the cost of AI? And how do you think about the ethics of AI? Yeah. And then we talk about solution. How do you find the right problem to solve, create iterative solutions? How do you build a product, workflows, systems that we talked about, platforms, automation, integration, right? How do you build an end-to-end integrated system? So these are some of the skills implicitly are talked about in the overall program. So in order for us to achieve the Prime Minister's vision of 2047, um, called the Viksit Bharat. That means how do we become a developed country? We need to develop ourselves and our skill sets to the next level. So how do you think about digitize everything? Today our homeworks are written in copies, our printouts are coming for blood reports. How do you stay digitized? How do you standardize everything? If what one startup is producing has to talk to another startup's input, if models have to talk to each other, then how do you standardize everything, right? How do you not become dependent on one technology? You should be able to replace a technology with another technology. System should still work. How do you think about automation wherever automation is not there, wherever intelligence is not there, wherever integration of end-to-end workflows is not there? How do you build a democratization system so that anybody can build a model? I don't have to work for a company to build a model for the company or a country. How do I democratize that? How do I think about the principles of inclusion? Right? We cannot build apps and products only for English speaking, tech savvy, digital people. We have to build it for the rest of the Bharat, people who don't speak English, who use voice as a medium of interface, uh, and all that. How do we include them in our product thinking, for example, right? How do we personalize all services, right? So we have learned the benefits of personalization, but we don't have personalized health, personalized advisory for farmer, personalized education. So the core things we have not done. We have done superficial things like watching a Netflix or buying a product. So how do we reorient ourselves to solve the real problems and then apply the same principles there? And finally, how do we build a ethical and responsible system of AI so it doesn't create harm to people? Yeah. So hopefully you got a sense of what we are trying to do, what the future of AI looks like, what is expected from the next generation of so-called data scientists and AI architects. So I'll open the floor to any questions if you have any questions and thoughts. But hopefully you got a new perspective on AI. It's not just ChatGPT and Gen AI. There's a lot more to AI that we learned, and we are not just going to answer questions with ChatGPT and prompt engineering. We are going to build solutions domain after domain using these principles that we learned. Yeah. All right. Thank you. I'll stop now. Take some questions. So Q&A has, okay. All right. So Shravani is asking, what degree do I need to get to get into AI in agriculture? Yes. So you can approach the solution from both sides. You can either have an agriculture degree, or we know how to work with agriculture experts and we can have a engineering degree, right? So it doesn't matter. So obviously this program requires people to have a strong technical background, but when we create a solution, we highly depend on the domain experts, right? So I cannot build any of those systems that I showed you without talking to a doctor or an expert in agriculture or an expert in telecom or an expert in commute, Ola, Uber. I cannot do that. Remember, we have to be in the middle, but our program requires that we start from being digital savvy first. So initially we require uh, you know, technical skills a lot more, because this program is highly technical, very rigorous. And then whenever we are ready to build solution, You pick your domain. You say, I am into agriculture, I am into healthcare, I want to do smart cities and safety and whatever. So you pick a domain, then we figure out with ChatGPT research, talking to experts. So we develop both sides of the story, right? That's how we create solutions. Is it safe to use AI in all domains? Very good question. So there are domains like Netflix and YouTube recommendation and retail, where even if you are not 100% accurate, nobody cares, right? It doesn't matter if you're not 100% accurate on a YouTube recommendation or a product recommendation on Amazon. But there are domains like healthcare. You cannot be wrong. Your diagnosis has to be perfect. Your prescription has to be perfect, better than the doctor, best doctor in the world. So in those cases, we don't use AI completely independently. We use AI in conjunction with the human expert. That's why I showed you that healthcare example where there's a doctor sitting in front of every AI box. So healthcare is one example. Another very important example is military use cases, right? So tomorrow, the militaries of the world have started using AI in their drones, in their missiles, in their weapons. Now, again, that cannot be completely autonomous. So there has to be very big oversight on what AI drones and weapons are doing. So not everything should be AI-fied. There should be different degrees of control on different places. So very good question, Harsha. Ganesh is asking what AI or AI techniques use for geoprocessing. Currently, AI tools are available in the market for geoprocessing. So I don't know what you mean by geoprocessing, but there's a whole field called remote sensing, which can collect and understand the Earth from a satellite data perspective. There's a whole field called, the based on what we call the geography of the world, right? So these are the people who understand the geography. There are a lot of softwares and tools that they use in the geo world, geo world, and they can zoom in, zoom out, maps, they can drill in, they can do overlays. There are a lot of tools that they use to do all kinds of problems. So if you're doing forestation and sustainability research, if you're doing war gaming, you need the GPS tools. If you're doing telecom, you need to know where the cell tower should go. So everybody uses those kind of tools, right? It's a very big area. You can use it for marketing also. If you develop insights like what products and brands are selling more and less in different parts of the country, you can put the right billboards, you can stock up the right products, you can send the right coupons accordingly, right? So there's a lot of work you can do in that. Nirmal is asking, so do we see any scope in audits for companies? Yes, you are completely right. In fact, we are building a solution now where I don't want to see audit as an afterthought. So today, because the word audit means, okay, everything is done, payments are done, taxes are paid. Now somebody will come, do some random samples and review something and find out if something is wrong. This mindset will completely change. So here is what we are thinking. Imagine that you have certain rules for making payments or putting orders. And as soon as that event comes, that somebody approved something, automatically the AI system should look at the approval, look at the rules, and say, does it comply with the rules or not? If not, send it back and only allow it to pass in the workflow if it complies. So the future of audit and compliance will be proactive, right? AI will make sure everything is compliant. So that is the future in accounting. And we can build a lot of things and all this paperwork will go away. Automation will happen because whatever a human chartered accountant is looking for in samples can be automated in exhaustively everywhere. Yeah. Gayatri, on which college courses and certification definitely opt for, which will actually help. Correct. Yeah. So I think two things you have to think about, right? If you are a research kind of a person, Gayatri, then you need to take courses that take you in the research direction. So you may want to join IITs and some of the high-end courses they are offering, maybe in the US or Australia, and you need to pick courses that will gear up for research, right? That kind of courses. If you want to go and become a hardcore data scientist, then there are a lot of courses which give you a lot of hands-on exercise and industry exposure, and you can choose those courses. If you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to learn how to build a startup, which is an AI company later, then you need to take other type of courses, maybe in business schools and all that, right? Now, what Geo Institute does is combine all three. So what we have done, we have created a program where if you want to be a researcher later, you can take certain electives and continue in that direction. If you want to be a hardcore data scientist, work with companies across the world, then you have a lot of hands-on experience and industry exposure and visits to other countries and all that. If you want to be an entrepreneur, then we support you in that also. We fund startups and we help mentor the startups also, right? So in Geo Institute, we are trying to say, I don't want to put you in a bucket, but say you can be anything if you want. After 1 year, you decide who you are and what you want to be. Yeah? So that is how we have designed the course. State of automation in knowledge generation for machine learning. That's a great question. Now, what is happening? So far, knowledge has been generated by humans, right? Research and all that. The new breed of knowledge generation is coming from ChatGPT itself. So now they are talking about how we have ran out of the data on the web. And now can I use ChatGPT models to generate more data, right? So that is a very important new step in knowledge creation. Shavni is asking a very important question.
Sorry to interrupt, sir.
Yeah, last question I'll take and then.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
So this is very important. I think we have to think about employment because one of the things we are seeing everywhere, right? AI will take away this job, that job, and all that. This has happened forever in human history. Every time a new technology comes, people with those skill sets who are affected by it go up in arms. This has happened again and again and again. AI is not new. So that is one part of the answer. The solution to this is continuous upskilling. So if you are a software engineer and you are seeing that software jobs are going away, what should you do? You should upskill to become a AI expert. Now, not a traditional AI expert, but the kind I just talked about, who can think about AI from a big picture point of view, right? So I think, in the future, we are going to need more and more AI scientists, but with an evolved sense of the skill set, not with the current set of skill set. What I learned 20 years ago is obsolete. What you are learning today in AI will become obsolete in 5 years. So we have to continuously upskill ourselves, and that is how our employability keeps going. So that is the new skill, and we are hoping that you can create amazing solutions for the country if you understand AI from multiple point of view, right? As a philosophy, as a mindset, as a set of tools, as a problem-solving system, and then you can be much more empowered with AI than what we have today. Yeah. All right, so I'll stop there. We are out of time. So thank you for your patience. We'll answer some of the other questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for such an insightful session. Thank you all the participants to joining this masterclass first, and looking forward to have you all on in series second part as well, masterclass 2. Thank you so much, sir.